Hi there, grade 12s, and welcome to today's video where we are going to be talking about how to actually answer some of your theory questions. This was a presentation that I got from the Department of Education where they were sharing some tips on how to approach your theory paper. And then after that, I'm going to look at some of last year's theory papers just so you can see how we can apply what we are going to go through over here. Okay, so first things first, we look at some general notes and tips. And they mentioned to us, please do not leave out any questions. Please number correctly and start each question on a new page. This helps us when we mark. And also be careful of not questions, okay? Wording is important. And guys, before we go any further, please, when it comes to your theory paper especially, you need to spend time reading the question. Read the scenario. Try to understand it before you even answer it. Now, our short questions usually come from section A. That's question 1, 2, and 3. And this is where we have multiple choice, true and false, and match the column. That's generally what you will find there. But those are the short questions. So you want to answer these first because you'll move through this fairly quickly. If you don't know any of these answers, just guess, but don't guess more than one answer. So if they're asking you, to match the column up, you can't say, well, it could be A or B. No, then we can't mark that. That's going to be wrong. You have to give one answer. Now, the reason we say if you don't know, guess, well, you can just see from here, this person did question 1, 2, and 3, but 3 they left out, completely. So there's no marks that we can give that individual. Now, if you're guessing and you guess all 5 of them, man, you know what? You might get 1, you might get 2, you might even get 3, you might even get all 5 marks. And that was just for guessing. So the potential is there to still get marks instead of just getting nothing. Okay? Please, no blanks. Then also, you need to write legibly, right? So that we can read your handwriting, please. Because I might interpret that as a D. You might have written it as an O. And then you don't get the mark. Okay, so please bear that in mind. Also, numbering. Don't number like this. Try to keep things running this way. Number in this manner. Again, it makes it easier when we mark to make sure we are marking correctly. Otherwise, one can get confused. You don't know what it's like to mark these papers. So we can sometimes get confused doing this. So please just, stick to the numbering like that. Then our short questions, the true and false. Now, this trips up people sometimes. If you don't know, just guess all true. Okay? You're bound to get at least 2 or 3. Okay? No marks. Please bear this in mind. No marks are awarded for false. So you need to substantiate why it's false. So here's an example. A printer is an example of an input device. We know the statement is false. And they say there, change the underlined word to make the sentence true, right? So we need to indicate, number 1, that it's false over here. And then we need to say why. Or in other words, our why would be changing this underlined word. So I'm going to change it from input to output. And now is the statement going to be true? A printer is an example of an output device? Yes. Okay. So the combination of false and output, that is what gives me my 1 mark. And there you can see 1 mark for false sorting, 1 mark for true, 1 mark for true. Now, if this person had just said all true, like let's say you knew absolutely nothing, okay? And you get to this section and you just say, well, all true. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to get 2 marks. If you'd left it blank, you would have had nothing, okay? So at least the person is going to get 2 marks. When it comes to longer questions, let's look at some technicalities quickly. The first thing is leave a line between every single question. And this helps us, okay, as well as organizing your paper very nicely, because I don't want to mark this, right? Many of us do not want to mark this because we can get confused. Your handwriting is also, it does play a role, because if you've written something and I read it, in a way that it's actually sort of pointing to a different word, it can spoil the entire answer that you are actually giving. Whereas look at this, numbered correctly, a space between each one. I can see each answer and I can read it. Okay, it is legible. Please bear that in mind. Don't switch handwriting styles. Okay, don't think halfway through you're going to switch handwriting styles. That can lead to a bit of a problem. You can find that, yes, although you do get tired and it starts changing a little bit, it can lead to investigations for them to see, okay, well, why is this guy's handwriting changing? Why is it doing that? And it may be evidence that somebody else helped you. Now, I'm not saying that is the case, but these are things that do come up. Also be careful of bullets. Now, here, for example, this learner indicated 4 bullets. Okay, in the past, we could read past your first 2 answers. So let's say you wrote down 4, I needed 2 answers, and I see, okay, number 1 is correct and number 4 is correct. Right? In the past, I could give you those marks. Now we can't give you those marks. We need to take the first 2 and we mark accordingly. So if you've got these 2 wrong, but the next 2 that you've listed are correct, we can't give you those marks. So this is why you want to put your best effort and guess into the first 2 and not in paragraphs. Don't give us paragraphs worth of information. Okay? Just be careful. Also show where your answer is. Don't leave, like your question goes from question 5.1 to 5.5 and then these 2 you just leave out completely. Indicate to us, even if you missed it and you are coming back to it, you're doing it on the back page, that's fine. Just reference where it is. Just indicate to us it's on the back page. Whatever you want to do, so that you don't miss out on marks. I think that's one of the biggest things. Then just some general notes. Answer all sections of a question, especially if there is more than 1 point in a question. Please, very importantly, let yourself be guided by the number of marks. You are looking at 1 mark per fact. So if it's a question that requires a 3-mark answer, you need to provide 3 facts. Never give 1-word answers. Okay, you want to answer in sentences, but to the point. All right? Otherwise, again, you don't get the marks. Always give a reason if you give an answer, because this is going to ensure your mark. So if you're indicating that an SSD drive is faster than a normal hard drive, you will say, well, it is faster because it has no moving parts. Because whatever your choices are going to be, right? Just give a reason for that. So let's look at some strategy. This time the cart can come before the horse, they mentioned to us. So you can go and deal with the high risk items first. Now again, this strategy is not for everyone. It's just one that they're putting out there. Question 4, 9, and 10 counts the most marks because they're around about 25 marks each. So that's 75 marks of your 150 mark paper. So that's like half of your paper. Okay. After completing section A, those short questions, consider answering these questions first, the 4, 9, and 10 before carrying on. Now, bear in mind, look, it's not great for us to mark it in that order, but if you want to start with question 1, 2, and 3, then go to question 4, question 9, as long as everything is in the paper. As long as everything is in the paper. And at least if you're doing each section on a different, or each question on a different page, and you staple everything together at the end, you can staple it in the order. But when you answer it, you don't have to answer it in that order. Okay, so this is just one of the strategies. I mentioned play your cards right. Identify your weak spot and leave that question for last. Now, why do we say that? Because you spend the most time on those weak spots. You'll sit for minutes and minutes on end, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes for a 2 or 3 mark question where you could have gotten the other stuff done and left this for last. These questions are always in this order. Question 4, system technologies. 5, internet and network technologies. Question 6, information management. Social implications, solution development, and then the big one, question 9 or question 9 and 10, which is a mixture of all of the above and usually has a very specific scenario. So that's what you should expect in your paper. Now, let's look at some more strategy. What are they actually asking me? Please, there's the thing I've spoken about before. Read, 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 and read again. Okay, take note of exclusions. Identify key words and underline them. You know what? You can take a pencil with you. You can write in your question paper. Underline things that stand out to you. Okay? For example, you might ask, well, how long should my answers be? If they ask you to name or list items, they want you to write a list of items with no additional detail. So list 5 output devices. Identify, in other words, name the essential characteristics. State or give. What are they asking you to do? Write down information without discussion. Explain or discuss. Here you will have to give a clear, detailed description of the focus topic. Recommend or suggest. In other words, you are going to now give your opinion, backing it up with facts, with reason or an explanation. So please, this is important. When you see this, just understand what they are actually asking or requiring from you, right? And then never, ever, ever, what are they saying to us? Never, ever use these words without explaining why you are saying it. Remember I made the example of the SSD? And I said you don't use faster unless you can back it up. So the SSD is faster because it has no moving parts. Easier, better, faster, cheaper, and more effective. If you are going to use these words, you need to explain why. Okay? It is cheaper, let's say a laser printer, an inkjet printer is cheaper than a laser printer when you initially buy it. But long term, the cost of maintaining it and keeping it is going to be higher. You have to end up answering like that. Okay, so please. Then a few extra tips. Give specific examples. Explain how things are different. Compare it to something similar. Be very specific. And please use computer terminology. Now, this is a tip that goes towards your end of year CAT theory exam. They are going to need you to answer using computer terminology. So the sooner you get into that routine, the better it's going to be for you. Then it will become the norm for you to answer like that. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Don't be vague. So here's a question. What effect will it have if you replace a laptop's hard drive with an SSD? Do you see how this keeps coming up? Right? We can't just say, well, the computer will be faster. No, the performance of the computer will improve because an SSD's data transfer rate is higher, or the speed at which data is transferred with an SSD as opposed to a normal hard drive is higher, or it's faster. Right? Have I backed up what I'm saying? Yes. So that's how you end up getting the mark. This is why we're saying you need to be specific. How will a barcode scanner improve a store's productivity? It'll be better. No, you can't tell us that. You'll have to say it'll be better because they can work faster than typing it by hand and makes less mistakes, or higher accuracy. State a disadvantage of using Bluetooth to connect devices in a home area network. It is slow. Really? You cannot give us answers like that. Remember, you are in grade 12. Grade 12 CAT. You cannot be answering like that. You'll indicate the data transfer speed or the rate at which data is transferred with Bluetooth is slower, right? Or is slow. So please just be very specific with that. Here's another one. Suggest 2 ways to fix a mouse pointer that moves in an unpredictable way. Install driver, change batteries, charge mouse. No. Reinstall the driver for the mouse. Recharge the batteries or replace the batteries. Okay? Do you see? Simple changes. Here's another one. Suggest a way to improve battery life on a laptop. You can set the brightness setting lower. Okay? Just setting the brightness. You're not telling me what about the brightness. Like set the brightness. Okay, so I go to the brightness and then what? Okay? And then you also just want to watch out for keywords. Give 2 examples of biometric devices. Now, some will say, oh, voice recognition. No, they spoke about a device. So yes, with voice recognition, that is one way of using biometric security, but what do we use, or what device do we use to do that? A microphone. Okay, microphone for voice recognition. So please, this is just, again, another way to ensure that you are giving the correct answers. So let's go and look now at a theory paper from September 2021 to see if what we just went through, actually applies here. And this is going to be last year's paper. Let me just, there we go. Okay, so here we can see section A, our short marks, 25. Section B, 75. It's exactly what we said. And then section C, 50 marks. And there they're saying, start each question on a new page. Leave a line after each sub question. 1 mark per fact. These are all things we just spoke about. Answers such as cheaper, slower, faster will only be accepted if they are motivated. Guys, this is exactly what we just said. So here you can see question 1 will generally be your multiple choice. And again, when it comes to this, eliminate the 2 answers that you know have no bearing on this whatsoever. Then you're left with a 50-50 split. And from there, if you know what you're talking about and you know, or you have been studying, then you should know what that answer will be, or what the most likely answer will be. So that's fine. Then we move on, and question 2 would either be matching, the column or your true or false. So here again, you can even see in the memo, let me just go further up here. In the memo, you can see how it's numbered. We want that numbering. Okay, so there we would go through that. In fact, I'll actually leave this paper in the memo in the description. I should have a link down there. Please, guys, if you're going to download it, but do not cut it. Do not delete it, okay, so that somebody else can use this as well. These things are available on some of the websites as well. Okay, so we've got that, and then over there's our true or false section. Now you'll see again, we need to change the statement so that it's true. Now, if the statement is true, then it's true. But when we go to the memo, just have a look there, you'll see. If I went and I answered all of these as true, what was going to happen? I'm going to get at least 2 marks. False, if I say everything is false, I get nothing. Unless I change that underlined word. So please do that. Okay? That's then how I get my 25. Now, I'm just going to go through this paper so you can see some of the questions that do come up, and some of them I'll indicate, if they are questions that do pop up regularly. Things like, speaking about the RAM. Know what the RAM is. The difference between RAM and ROM. The fact that one is volatile, one is non-volatile. They do mention here about input devices. Look, there are going to be probably questions around the technology that we currently have. So do understand the tech that we are currently busy with. Know the difference between your input devices and output devices. In grade 12, you should be used to scenarios around troubleshooting as well. So here, for example, here's when you are working with a wired mouse, it suddenly freezes and fails to respond. What do you do with it? You can unplug it. If it's a USB mouse, unplug it, plug it back in, try it in a different port, things like that. But read the question first. Remember what they mentioned to us. Here's keywords: explain, discuss, give, okay, name, state one example of how VR, virtual reality, can be used. Don't go and explain what virtual reality is. You are asked to give an example of how virtual reality can be used, except for gaming. Okay. Here, this was a nice question on drones. So for 1 mark, you had to define what a drone is, state 2 possible benefits. So you got to go back to the scenario. What is the scenario? It's talking about the drone and the person using the 3D printer to print parts. So based on that, what are benefits of using the 3D printer to print parts for your drone? Also, oh, here we go. Specs of the PC. Please, your specs of the PC, you must know the difference between your hard drive and your SSD. You need to know those differences. Now, I want to go to this one in particular so that you can see over here. So your state 3 advantages of your SSDs. With your SSDs, they are faster than the normal hard drive, but you'll have to say why. You'll have to put that in there to say because it has no moving parts, it's more energy efficient, okay? It runs quieter than your traditional hard drive, so just make sure you are backing up those things. These are the SSD hard drive questions, or things that really come up quite often. Then your networks as well. Know how your networks work in terms of your cabled network versus wireless. That is very important as well. Your local area network advantages, disadvantages, those are things that generally come up. And then the network within your home as well, using a router. What are the advantages of using a router? Here we can see, as they mentioned before, question 6, information management. Some of that comes from the PAT. Things like what's an open question, what's a closed question, your task definition. Those sort of questions, those are the things that do come up. Social implications generally around society. So how are we using the technology in society? And also some of the problems that we pick up there, hoaxes, spams, scams, all these different things. Question 8 could sometimes be question 7, question 8, solution development. Here you'll get a couple of practical questions in theory form. So they're asking you questions that you should know, in terms of how to do it practically, but they're asking it to you in a theory paper. So don't forget your practical work. And then question 9 usually has, or your last question usually has, a fairly big scenario, and all the questions will be based on that. So here you can see they're bringing in biometrics, RFID tags, virtual memory, all based on the scenario that you have over here. Right, so grade 12s, that's basically about it for me. I hope this helps you in terms of just how to approach your paper. And this is, for all those writing, whether it's June, September, end of year, you can use this video specifically to prepare yourself for that theory paper. So if there's anything else, let me know in the comments. But good luck and all the best for your exam.